There comes a time when your silence becomes louder than all the noise they made, a time when you don't need to explain, to defend, to scream, or even prove yourself, a time when your peace becomes your protest. When your indifference speaks volumes, when you finally realize that walking away without a word is louder than shouting back with all the pain they caused, you see, people don't expect you to go quiet. They expect you to chase, to argue, to fight for closure. They want you to fall apart, but the moment you choose to stay calm unshaken, they panic because your silence is proof that they never had the power they believed they did. There's something about being ignored that haunts those who thrive on drama, something about you not reacting, not responding, not needing them anymore that cuts deeper than any insult, and that's the point. You don't need to destroy them to win, you just need to live like they no longer exist, and that, right there, is the ultimate revenge. You've probably been through it. Someone did you wrong, they left without explanation. They played with your heart, they talked about you behind your back, they turned people against you, they gave you the bare minimum and still expected you to be grateful, they drained your energy, then accused you of being too much. And after all that, they waited for you to break, but instead of falling apart, you rose in silence. That silence didn't mean you didn't feel the pain, it meant you finally respected yourself too much to entertain it. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to you, not everyone deserves your response, your time, or your words. You now understand the difference between being reactive and being powerful, and the strongest power you've ever held is the power to ignore what no longer serves you. That doesn't mean you're bitter, it means you're free. They want your attention, not your healing. They want your reaction, not your understanding. They want control over your emotions. But the moment you stop giving them what they crave, your energy, they collapse under the weight of your indifference, because when you no longer respond, you deny them the very oxygen that kept their manipulation alive. Let me tell you a story. A young woman named Isla lived in a town that praised conformity. She was a gifted dancer, elegant, disciplined, graceful, but quiet. Her talent was unmistakable, and for some, that was threatening. The other dancers whispered behind her back. They mocked her movements, called her cold, said she was emotionless and wouldn't make it far. At first, she cried in silence. Then she wanted to defend herself. But she didn't. One day, something inside her shifted. She stopped listening. She stopped caring. She showed up every day, not to prove anyone wrong, but to prove herself right. She trained early, stayed late. She smiled through every jab and never once spoke about them. 3 years later, she auditioned for a world-renowned ballet company in Paris and got in. While the others stayed behind, still criticizing the world from their small corner, she danced across global stages with her name shining in lights. She didn't respond to the cruelty. She let her work respond for her. That's what real power looks like. You ignore, you grow, you rise. Ignoring doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you no longer allow someone else to decide how you feel. It means you've chosen peace over pettiness, growth over grudges. It's not about revenge in the traditional sense. It's about reclaiming your time, your mind, your life. You don't scream to be heard anymore. You simply stop talking where no one's listening. When you ignore them, you don't lose. You win because you refused to sink to their level. You win because you chose healing. You win because you learned that some battles are won by refusing to fight. You could have called them out, exposed them, matched their energy, but you didn't. You took your dignity and walked away, and the more you stayed silent, the louder your presence became. The more you ignored the disrespect, the more they crumbled under their own weight. They expected chaos, you gave them nothing. They expected war, you gave them peace, and that's what shattered them, because nothing disturbs the toxic more than a person who's no longer controlled by their chaos. Don't underestimate the power of ignoring someone who once made you feel small. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's maturity. It's a decision that says, I no longer allow you to disturb my peace. You owe no one an explanation for protecting your space. You owe no one a reaction. When you choose silence, you choose yourself. They might come back. They always do. When your light no longer warms them, when your energy no longer lifts them, when your presence no longer feeds their ego, they return, not because they changed, but because your absence is uncomfortable. But by then, it's too late. You've already tasted peace, and peace is never something you bargain for again. When you ignore them, you're not trying to punish them. You're simply choosing to no longer reward bad behavior. You're no longer investing in someone who brought you losses. You're no longer participating in conversations that shrink you. You're no longer placing your worth in the hands of those who couldn't handle your heart. Your silence is your growth. Your peace is your boundary. Your indifference is your healing. And let's be honest, they expected you to beg. They expected you to plead. They expected you to fall apart in their absence. But you surprised them. You stopped calling. You stopped explaining. You stopped trying to fix what broke you. You looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I deserve more than this. And then you gave that to yourself. You gave yourself silence, freedom, distance, and in that distance you found clarity, you found power, you found yourself. The person who ignores is not the one who doesn't care. It's the one who has cared too much for too long and finally decided to let go. Ignoring them is not about revenge. It's about release. It's about healing. It's about saying, this pain ends with me. You no longer chase validation. You no longer accept crumbs. You no longer dance for people who never learned how to clap for you. You ignore not because you're cold, but because you've grown, you've matured, you've stepped into a new level where chaos no longer gets an invitation. They called you soft, you became strong. They called you dramatic. You became silent. They called you replaceable. You became unavailable, and that transformation, that's what they never expected. That's what they never saw coming. You owe it to yourself to never shrink for people who couldn't handle your fullness. You owe it to yourself to stay silent when silence protects your spirit. You owe it to yourself to stop proving your value to people committed to misunderstanding you. So ignore the noise. Ignore the gossip. Ignore the cheap shots. Ignore the passive-aggressive digs. You are not what they say you are. You are what you prove to yourself every day you rise without reacting. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them sit in circles and create versions of you that only exist in their heads. The real you, the healed you, the powerful, silent, grounded you. That version doesn't need to be explained. It speaks for itself in how it lives, how it grows, and how it stays unbothered. You will never find peace explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Walk away, walk tall, walk silent. That silence, that's your revenge, that growth, that's your response. That peace, that's your freedom. Don't look back. Don't wait for apologies that will never come. Don't seek closure from people who broke you open without care. You close it yourself. You choose peace. You choose healing. You choose you. The strongest person is not the one who fights back. It's the one who no longer needs to. The one who can sit in silence and know, I am enough, even if they never see it. I am strong, even if they never admit it. I am whole, even if they tried to break me. So let them feel your absence. Let them wonder why you no longer care. Let them realize that the version of you they mistreated no longer exists. The final act of power is not revenge. It is reinvention. And the most powerful thing you will ever do is walk away without a word.